listening to the Dynamic Women podcast. Each week, you'll be inspired by our global community of women. They'll share with you tools and stories to help you be dynamic in every area of life. He's your host, award-winning coach, and the CEO and founder of Dynamic Women, Diane Ralston.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Dynamic Women interview with another dynamic woman who is inspiring in her life. And who do we have here but Jacqueline Way? And so, hello, Jacqueline.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Good. We're glad to have you here. And I want to just let all of our listeners know a little bit more about who you are. I know I saw you back when we were both speaking at a conference together, and I loved your story. And so I wanted to bring you on to share a little bit more with everybody who's watching and listening, because I just know that what you do will impact their lives hugely.
Thank you.
So let me let everybody know just a smidgen about her, and then afterwards, Jacqueline, I'm going to get you to do the Power Minute of where you get to really highlight all the amazing things about you. Okay?
Great.
So Jacqueline is a dedicated world changer that has started a volunteer-run charitable organization called 365 Give. The organization is dedicated to educating and empowering children to change the world one give, one day at a time. And Jacqueline has a passion for developing initiatives that will create long-lasting positive social impact. Jacqueline is an experienced inspirational speaker on the topic of happiness, education, and world-changing initiatives. Amazing. Awesome. So there's lots more to you. There's lots more to you. So tell us, brag a little bit. All the other amazing things.
Yeah, I'm not very good at that, but I love to share kind of my story and how I started 365 Give and why. Obviously, your listeners and watchers, they are businesswomen. And it's really how I started and where my passion has led me to 365 Give, because in my early 20s, I started a business, and it was the business in special event fundraising. And so I worked with organizations and companies, and this is in Toronto, and I helped raise a lot of money through special events. So those galas and golf tournaments and all those special events that we've all attended before. And I was very fortunate, raised just about $10 million for organizations across the world. Both locally and globally. Yeah. And it really sparked passion in me to keep doing that. I think once you've got the philanthropic bug, you realize that there's so much need in our world and so much to do. And so that's how 365 Give started, because as many women out there, they have the challenge of how do you work and how do you raise a family? And so about 10 years ago, my first son came home. I am a mother of 3 adopted beautiful little boys here locally in Vancouver. Yeah. And so when my first son came home, it really opened my eyes to the world in a different light, because I really wanted to be there for my son. I didn't want my life to be, him being taken care of a nanny while I worked like a dog on my business. Yeah. It was very demanding. And so I decided to look at things differently, and I started to explore some ideas of, how could I work from home, be a full-time mom, and also do something to give back to the world. And I think that when you have children, you want to give them the best life possible. You want to give them a happy life, but you look at the world as a whole and go, it's almost a bit shocking. What am I bringing this child into, and how am I going to raise them in a world that has a lot going on, and not always a lot of good things. There is a lot of good things. I'm not the downer on the world by any means. But how do we create more of a positive world for our children? And that's where 365 Give came in. And so on my son's 3rd birthday, we decided together that we were going to do one thing to give back to the world every day. And we were going to kind of share our stories via a blog in hopes that other people would be inspired by our stories and the little small things that we were doing in our everyday life that were easy enough that a 3-year-old could do it. And so we started this blog, and it was amazing to me. And I'm not a blogger, just so everybody knows. I'm actually not even a writer. And just by sharing stories and sharing them on Twitter and Facebook, and this is going back 10 years now. So in those days, it was still early days for blogging, and I just started social media. I didn't even have my own Facebook page at the time. And it was remarkable how people from all over the world just started engaging with our stories and saying, I'm going to start doing this in my life. And it was really neat to watch it evolve. And that's how our charity started. My son is co-founder with me. And it's grown and evolved. And I've learned so much about business and so much about intertwining your passion and that philosophy that we can take our skills and we can take our expertise and we can make that contribution back to the world in so many different ways. And it's been a phenomenal experience.
Awesome.
And still is. Every day still is.
And so let me just kind of break down the details and the timeline here. You started it when your son was 3.
Yes.
And this is 10 years ago. So now he's 13.
No, I apologize. So 7 years ago, my son is now 10. So we actually started 365 Give 7 years ago.
Okay. And so now he's a co-founder with you.
And he's the co-founder with me. Yes, he's always done that. And we've evolved it from a blog to an actual educational program that is implemented directly in schools. We've touched over 25 schools. We're actually now up to about 35 schools. And not only in local Vancouver, but actually globally. We just launched in Rome. We've launched in Italy. We're launching in schools in Romania. And we've taken our program and we're making it accessible now to people and schools all over the world.
That's awesome.
Yeah, due to a recent TED Talk that I just did this past year. We've been very blessed that our TED Talk on our 365 Give story has done remarkably well. We're at about 850,000 views right now. Just went up in April, and people it amazes us every day how people are just looking for that way to contribute back to the world. But sometimes it feels really overwhelming, like they have to donate a lot of money or you have to volunteer hundreds of hours, and kind of be that Bono or Oprah in the world. And what we're realizing is people are just looking for that simple way to identify things every day in the world, how they can make a difference in whether it's 5 minutes or less or 2 minutes or less, or just take a little bit of time in their life to create some change. And when you get a lot of people together, then that's when you're starting to make a big change. And that's what we're working towards right now.
That's awesome. Now, let's again pull it back to the details here, because my business mind has a lot of questions for you. But I also I'm understanding that, our community of women, they are amazing women who are busy, but also have this humanitarian philanthropic side to them. And so can you give us some examples of like 5 days of what it could look like in 365 Give? Because if people want to start tomorrow or even today, what could some potential quick and easy things that they can fit into their life over the next 5 days?
So, next 5 days, if you go into Starbucks right now, I happen to be a Starbucks friend, so I'm going to plug them. But I was in there yesterday getting myself a coffee. And they actually have a great little sign that's up, and it says "Give for Good." And so it reminded me that something as simple as buying the next person in line a coffee when you go into your favorite coffee store, I always love to see the reaction of that next person that comes and gets that free coffee going, wow. Somebody just bought me a coffee. I don't even know who that person is. I never, nobody announces it, but it's always just fun to watch, to see that person and how it brightens their day. It puts them on a different track for the day. It makes them happy. And I can't tell you how many times, and I've heard this again and again, they buy a coffee for the next person in line, and it goes and it goes. There's a story that happened in the news not long ago. And somebody bought a coffee through a drive-through window. It went on for 6 hours that the next person in line bought the next person a coffee. And it just kept going and going because it spread that happiness factor for people. So that's those things we all stop. Well, I shouldn't say we all stop, but a lot of times we stop for that coffee. Just get somebody, the next person in line.
Okay, so there's one. Buy coffee for the next person.
I am a runner, so in the mornings I have to take my dog out usually for a run before the day gets going. Whenever I'm out, I pick up garbage. When I'm running along the beach, I'll stop, I'll do a squat, I pick up garbage, and I keep going. And I'll pick up garbage along the beach as I go, because I'm blessed that I live very close to the beach. Picking up garbage is a really easy way to help the planet. And it sets for me early in the morning that I've done something to give back that's positive to our planet. So that's always an easy one that people could do every day. Even if you picked up garbage every single day, I always carry a little bag with me wherever I go. So I can just grab some garbage as I go. And that's also an easy one. For people that work downtown potentially, or you walk to work, whenever I go downtown, I always make sure I have with me, whether it's a bottle of water and a granola bar or a sandwich or just something. So when I'm walking along the street, I can automatically know that I can help somebody that's living on the streets. There isn't a city in our world that doesn't have people in need on our streets. And some people are not comfortable giving homeless people money because they feel it may not be spent wisely. So if you know you're going somewhere and you're going to be passing homeless people, make sure you've got that thing in your pocket that you can always give, or pop into a store. If you're going and buying yourself lunch, buy the extra lunch, spend an extra $5, $7.
Yes.
Person lunch that's sitting outside.
I'm totally going to be having like a box of granola bars in my car for any time they're walking past your car at a stoplight. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, those people that are standing at the stoplight, and you can give them the bar, or give them your change. Do what, you don't have to give them $20, but you know what, even $2 or $3 to a person that lives on the street, that actually makes a difference, because they can at least go and get themselves something, or they can take a bus ride. People don't even realize it's really hard for homeless people to get anywhere, even if it's to a shelter. If they don't have $3 to get on a bus, it's a really big problem.
Wow.
So that's one of the other things that's always an easy one.
Yeah.
First thing in the morning, and I know a lot of us jump on our emails first thing in the morning when we get up, is send a note of gratitude to somebody. Whether it be your mother, a good friend, you can do it for the add to my life. And thank you so much for what you contribute to my life. You and I were having a conversation about those 5 important people that it's really important to surround yourself with. Yep. For 5 days, every morning, send one person a note of gratitude for what they contribute to your life, for their friendship, for their love, for their understanding or compassion towards you. And just send them that surprise note. Maybe it's your grade 4 teacher from 25 years ago and you found her on Facebook. Let people know what they mean to you. Because again, it just starts people's day off on such a brilliant foot and puts them in that frame of mind to pay it forward and to create that ripple effect of giving, as we call it, and move that forward.
Yeah.
So that's number 4. And number 5, probably for me, is always doing what I can to help my neighbors. Today's garbage day outside our house. So I always make sure I have a senior next door that lives next door to us. So I always help them with their garbage bins. We were out raking leaves the other day. I raked up their leaves. I don't tell them. I just do it. When we have our first snowfall, I take my kids out to our lane where we live, and we brush all our neighbors' cars off with snow. It takes that couple of extra minutes. It's 5 minutes. It's 5 or 3 minutes out of our day. And again, it doesn't have to be something you announce or something that you tell them. You just do it automatically, and it starts adding up. And every day you start creating, we call it a daily habit, and it's a daily habit, just like brushing your teeth. And you have to just make it a daily habit where you open your eyes to the opportunity and you find them really easily. And it's really that simple, as just opening your eyes, putting it at the front of your brain every day when you leave, and go, okay, I'm going to find my way to give today. And you walk out that door, and all of a sudden you've started creating this habit.
Yeah. Wow. So it's part of a lifestyle. So it's not just a habit, it's a lifestyle of giving, really, is what you create. Because there's always the people that say, oh, it's 21 days to create a habit. There's 60 days, 90 days. But if you're going to do something for 365, like, you're all in. And so do you find that people...
And you can be all in, or you know what, you can do it. Even if you did it for, science says that it's 66 days to create a habit. So you miss day 67, all good, then you'll find something on day 68 or day 70 or 72. We don't say to everybody, you have to give for 365 days, but we know that once you create that habit, you'll just start automatically doing it.
Yeah. And so one thing, when I was leading Dynamic Women in Action last evening, we were talking about how to remember to be doing stuff. So things that you're wanting to be doing, to remember to do it before it becomes that habit. And one thing for me was actually showing gratitude. And I'd get to the end of the day and be like, did I show gratitude today? I don't think so. So I just set an alarm on my phone every morning, 9 a.m., where that's the start of the day for me with my kids gone. And I'm like, okay, gratitude, boom, there we go. And so I guess this is another way that people could remind themselves, is just set that alarm on their phone or set it in their calendar. So that it's just that gentle reminder until we can get it to being that lifestyle change.
Yeah, we have as well. We're actually just about to launch a new website. It's going to be a really interactive website that anybody's going to be able to join as a member and join our community. You can join as a school. You can join as an individual. You'll be able to join as a business. And we're looking at creating an app just like that will start giving that reminder. So over the next 6 months to a year max, we've got a volunteer working on it right now for us, where you will just get that little reminder when you download our app that, open your eyes and take a look at, look around your world today and what can you do to give back in little ways. Because we don't, as women, and especially women in business, I know my day starts usually at about 4 a.m. and by 9 o'clock, we're done, and it's the days are full for all of us.
Yes.
For all of us.
Yes. Yeah.
So finding those little moments in our day where we can make a difference. And listen, we even have, there's tons of sites out there that are click to give sites, and in 1 minute you can help feed children in Africa. You can help animals. There's so many easy ways to just find those things in your life. You can help breast cancer, and it literally is a click, and they're sponsored clicks. So every time you click on that, the sponsors that have sponsored these sites have to give a financial donation towards great causes, and it literally takes 30 seconds. So even when we're so busy, we can even find these really simple things that we can do to give.
Yeah, it's just learning a new way of being. Really, with giving. And what most people don't realize is there's actually a science behind giving and how much it affects our bodies and our brains. So if anybody is actually a runner out there, or you like to exercise, or we all should, there's actually something called the runner's high, and they've called it the helper's high. And when you give that, your endorphins actually kick in, and you get that little rush feeling. It's that feeling of warmth and happiness. It's the same thing, when you engage. That also gives you that feeling of a high. And here's the other great kicker, and it's why I do it. It actually reduces your cortisol. And our cortisol is our anxiety and stress. So if you're running at that high level of anxiety and stress, which as a businesswoman and mother, is it's actually been proven that giving back will reduce that by 23%. It's not a little bit; it's a lot that it does that. So that's awesome.
It gives us that love hormone. It gives us that little energy boost that we need, and it reduces our anxiety and stress. So these are all the reasons why we need to find that time to give back in our day.
Yes, I'm part of the converted, I feel, after all you've said. Now, we've talked a lot about 365 Give because it is a really powerful movement and way of being in the world, not just for yourself, but for everybody around you and the world, like you said, with the planet. But I want to get a little deeper with you here. Does that work? But before we do, let's just let's put out there, what's the information for your TED Talk? What's it called? So that our listeners, obviously we'll put it in the comments, but just so that they can hear what it is.
Great. So my TED Talk title is called How to Be Happy Every Day. It Will Change the World. It really touches a lot on our 365 Give story, and that's kind of the premise around it, but it really touches on how our world is so affected by stress and anxiety, and how we can help take the world from stress and anxiety to happy. And it's a direct tie-in. So what we do with 365 Give, it's really that message. Over 1 billion people suffer from stress and anxiety. and which leads to conduct disorders in our children. You know, our kids are seeing this in adults every day. So it's helping people understand how they can live happy. And it's a tool for people to get away from that stress and anxiety and into happy.
So I'm going to encourage, sorry,
I was going to say, I think it's why our TED Talk is doing so well, because people are literally looking for that magic key, that little, you know, magic pill that's going to take them from potentially a depressed stage or a not happy place and take them to a happy place. And I think it's one of the reasons that it just resonates with people, because people are really searching for that key to happiness.
And something that's easy and quick. I think that's the other thing with powerful effects. So I'm actually going to encourage everybody who's hearing this to their first step be to watch your TED Talk. Their second step to share the TED Talk. That could be their first give. And then to continue to commit to the challenge. But let's jump in about you. I'm going to ask you some rapid fire things. I just want you to give kind of first thing that comes to mind. Okay? You ready?
Yeah.
Are you a morning or an evening person?
Morning.
Are you an electronic Kindle book reader or a real tangible book reader?
Neither. I would say I am at this point a listener. I do audiobooks right now.
Nice.
And I can multitask that way. I can clean my house and listen to the book at the same time. Yes,
double dutying. Nice.
Yes.
So what is one of your must reads for our community?
You know what? This is a must read, especially for this community. It's a book called The One Thing. It's a book that I recently came across and that was shared with me. It's a remarkable book that focuses on how to take all the busy parts of our life and focus them into categories, and then how to commit very clear times with it. You know, we all have our lists to do, which I have papers and pages and books all over my desk with my list of things to do. Yeah. And it was creating that time to focus on very clear objectives around not only my to-do list, but my personal to-do list. So it's creating the time, my words, it's creating the time for your personal time. It's creating time for your family time. 365 give from local to global. You know, where was the time that I needed to commit with that, where there's nothing else? You put down your phone, you put down everything on your computer, and you focus 2 hours of that time, if that's what you have, or 20 minutes of that time, or 3 hours of that time. And it was a great exercise for both my husband and I to go through, so that we could sit down and take our life in the big picture and make really clear visions within this. But it's my go-to book right now. I highly recommend it. I tell everybody about it. But The One Thing would be the book I would say is the one thing you need to read right now, because it will change and reframe the way you look at your life as a whole.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah, that'll be on my reading list.
Put that in the comments as well, a little link to that.
I will for sure.
It's the latest audiobook, so it was a good tie-in.
Yeah. I love listening as I do things. I often listen to podcasts while I'm at the gym. The latest ones are around investing. So I'm exercising and listening to investing, which is kind of a funny combination, but it works for me and you as well. I'm curious, how do you show up as a dynamic woman in your life? So I'll give you a little bit of background here. So the whole concept of being a dynamic woman is that we're not our titles. We are every experience, every role, everything we've ever done, every thought, feeling, value, and skill, rather than our titles. Because when we come in as a dynamic woman or person, we're actually an equal. And so we get to connect on that level. And so when I ask people, what makes you dynamic? They might say things like, I'm a great listener, or they might say, I'm a great speaker. So there's so many opposites. So when you think of dynamic woman and you being a dynamic woman, because I wouldn't have asked you to be on here if you weren't, how do you think you show up as a dynamic woman?
I think, and this is actually a lesson I learned from my TED Talk. I used to show up as the show. So it was the outfit, it was the hair, it was the power, strong woman, when I was in business in Toronto. And it's really evolved for me because what I learned and the way that I show up now is being my authentic self. So I'm true to who I am as a mother. I'm true to who I am as a businesswoman. I don't try and put on the show. I don't try and outdo the next person. I don't try and keep up with the Joneses. And that's what TED taught me, was that my story and my authentic self is actually just good enough. And so when I show up as a dynamic woman, I just show up as who I am as a person without trying to put on a show.
Love it. Love it. And I think that's really good for people out there who feel that pressure to compete and to be as good as the next person. And a lot of times the one they're comparing themselves to, they're further on their journey, or they have extra support, or they have more finances to back them. And you can never compare. Never compare. Just,
and you can't. It's keeping that mind open to that. I can always learn. And I think that's the big part. When I did TED, I thought, I've got this great story. I can do this. I'm comfortable talking in front of people. What's the big deal? And then I learned so much in that process, which was amazing. I spent a day just a few days ago with a woman who knows so much more about running my charity than I do. And instead of going, I'm never going to be this person, instead I went, how much can I learn from you? And I think that's how I shifted my roles. Instead of being, I already know everything, it's how much can I learn from everybody that I meet? Because I think everybody has something to offer that just builds us as a person or with what we want to learn.
Yeah. And so what's the best advice you've ever received?
It's be who you are. It's be your authentic self. I think that's one of the greatest pieces of advice that I not only have been given, but had to practice to get there. Because it's not always easy being your authentic self when you're surrounded, especially in the business world, where you're surrounded by so many different levels of different people. And I think that's at now pushing 50 is my biggest lesson that I have learned, is just being true to who you are and don't let anybody tell you differently.
Sometimes easier said than done. So we might have to have a follow-up about that.
It's a really hard lesson, like curl you up in a ball crying lesson until you can get there. And I can only hope that I keep that wisdom close to who I am and as I move forward in my life, because I want to teach my children that as well, is that who they are is just okay. And they don't, I have 3 boys who are very competitive, and I see it all the time. It's actually shocking to me. They compete for everything. And it's my one lesson that I want to teach them so much younger in their life, that just who they are is just okay, no matter if you're stronger, you're faster, you're smarter, or you're not. And that's okay, because they all have such different skills that, that they shine in their own right. And I wish I had known that when I was 10, that I could just be okay with who I was. Yeah. So that's my lesson I'm hoping to teach my kids long before they ever suffer from I'm not good enough syndrome, or I don't know enough syndrome.
Yeah. And I'd say the greatest gift my mom ever gave me was her extreme belief in me.
I have one of those moms.
To the point where I'm like, I don't think I can do this. But mom thinks I can. Mom believes I can. So I guess I can. I guess I don't know that yet. And so as I was growing up, constantly, that was such a joy. And I didn't realize it until I became a mom and until I started coaching, that I was like, man, like, boy, was I lucky. Not everybody grows up with somebody who believes in them that strongly. So I'm glad to hear that you are doing that for your kids and that you're helping them to believe in themselves, because that's really, at the end of the day, the only constant is that they're there for themselves. And so I think that's a big takeaway for parents and teachers as well. Anyone younger in their life or even in mentoring, the same thing, to just have that strong belief in others.
Well, and I think even as business women and people that are out there, really striving within their industry, it's such an important lesson even to share with the people that you're mentoring within your own community, and to share with them that you have a belief in their ability. Because if you can rise the people up, and whether that's your assistant, maybe it's your social media person, maybe it's somebody new, an intern that's coming in. If you can lift them up and rise them up, they will work so much harder for you, and they will be honored and grateful to work with you, and be part of whatever it is you're creating. And you'll get so much more out of people that way.
And that's actually one thing I was just hearing in my investing podcast was you want to invest in a company that has a leader, not a manager. Mm-hmm. And so same concept. So it's funny how industry-wise it's still very similar. Well, now's the time, Jacqueline. We have to come to a close, sadly. But I would love to just give you kind of a moment to put out there to everybody what you're going to be up to in the next year or so, the best way for people to kind of connect with you, and also for your ask to anybody who is watching, who's listening in our community, for something that you need.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. It's just been a pleasure talking to you and your community. And, people can reach me. The best way is through our website, 365give.ca. Obviously through our TED Talk, which we've already talked about, and my contact information is there. Mm-hmm. I think my one ask to the world constantly, or to people out there, is, find within yourself your humanity. Find your good, find what you can contribute. I believe we can all leave a living legacy rather than a legacy once we're dead and gone. I think we all have the power to make a positive change in our world because we really need it right now. Mm-hmm. And I think we have that ability to teach our children. You will be able to very shortly join us, probably by the time this podcast is out, our new site will be up. Join us on our community. Share your giving stories with us. We want to share them with the rest of the world. It will be available for businesses, individuals, classrooms, all the way around. Find a way within your own business that you can engage your employees if you have them, or your company that you work for, and start making that contribution. Because when you bring your employees together, whether that's with volunteer work, contributing together, joining our community as well, and tracking what you're doing with your own company, it will elevate your business and your employees together, because you're going to be feeling like you're working towards a common good and a common goal together. And it's all we can ask of people is find that part of yourself that can make a difference. And we'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to hear from any of you out there. We're always available to have people come and talk to you in your communities, and I love communicating with people. So please feel free to reach out anytime.
And what is your community? We're looking at kind of Vancouver, BC area?
No, our community has grown. Our community is now literally worldwide. I get emails from people all over the world now. And our community and our 365 Give community over the next year will be inclusive. We're global. We don't believe that it's just Vancouver or anywhere else, but we are creating a global community where people can come together because they all believe that they can make a difference. And that's where we could all join and connect. So it doesn't matter where you live, where you're from, your religion, your race, your sex, you name it. We're for everybody. So come and join us. Awesome.
Love it. So thank you so much, Jacqueline, not just for sharing about 365 Give, but for being an amazing person.
Thank you.
And for really putting your movement out into the world, because it's not always easy
there's nothing easy about this.
To have a movement almost like be placed upon your heart, and to do something about it, and then to take it to that next degree and that next level, and then global. So thank you for what you're doing in the world. Definitely you're doing some amazing things. And so community, come on, let's come around Jacqueline, help her out.
We'll take all of your expertise.
More stages.
Share their expertise, we're here.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
Yeah. So give her more stages to speak on, and please share her 365 story, the TED Talk, all that stuff. So thank you again. And I'm sure our paths will cross. We appreciate you in our community, and I guess we just sign off now. Yeah.
Have a great day, everybody. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Bye.
Thank you, Dynamic Women, for joining us today. Please hop on over to iTunes to subscribe and leave us a review. Who do you know who needs to hear our message? We'd love it if you'd share our channel with your friends and family. If you're ready to be more dynamic, have more balance and more success, head over to www.dynamicwomenclub.com/free gift for your Key to Success book. Stay dynamic.